You can tell the Fever got an upgrade at coach just from hearing Stephanie White speak, because they are going to be formidable next season. When Stephanie White talks about the team, she discusses defense as an area of growth. She talked about the offense and how, they want to play free within a certain structure. She discussed communicating with Caitlin Clark and wanting to help mold her into a leader to win multiple championships. And you can see when Stephanie White discusses the team that there is a level of excitement behind what she's saying. She had a good squad in Connecticut, but it's almost like she upgraded from a minivan to a Maserati, a serviceable vehicle to one that she can really, really put the pedal to the metal with. And she seems clearly excited about that. So when you put that coach with Caitlin Clark, with Aaliyah Boston, with the rest of that Fever team, I think next season, look out, rest of the WNBA. All right, so what I was referencing is a series of quotes that Stephanie White had from a recent podcast appearance that she did. And as always, I will put the full link to the podcast in the description below. And here are some bits from it, including the part about the upgraded offense. I think that is interesting because she draws a direct line between the Sun and the Fever at the beginning of this answer here.
Most, pace. One of the downfalls of having, a veteran team like we had in Connecticut was we weren't very fast. We didn't play very fast. One of the great things about Indiana is they love to play fast, right? So, what you want to play, I want to play with great pace. It's too hard in our league, and defenses are too good to allow them to get set. To allow them to be able to predetermine what you're going to do. So I also want our players to use their instincts and to play free. We want to make plays, not run plays, right? We want to have sets that give us certain spacing that we want, depending upon our rotations, who's on the floor, who we want to attack, what matchups we want to get to, how can we manipulate them. So we'll have certain play calls that just give us space to operate, and then whichever play we make, whichever pass we make determines, one of three actions that our players can read from. And so really giving them the freedom to play within a system, to get to the matchups and really challenging them to find the matchups, the reads, the shots that we want. And I think that that's going to be the next step for a young team. And for a young team, sometimes you need it really structured. Sometimes you need to know what's coming. Sometimes you need to know exactly who's going to get the ball and when. Well, good defenses are going to take advantage of that right away, and you're going to be limited. So the goal for us is to put them in positions to make plays and allow them to do what they do best. So that's the simple version of what the philosophy is on the offensive end.
Coaching You podcast, and you can see it and hear it there from Stephanie White. And I think basically Caitlin Clark's going to have the keys, but Stephanie White wants her to drive that car according to a structured philosophy. The GPS is set. You can make any stops you want, but this is the structure you make those plays within. And that sounds like a good balance. And I think you never want to limit a basketball team or playmakers. I've always said that, right? Like when, I coach, I don't even want to run too many plays. I want to teach people how to make plays on the fly, kids how to make plays on the fly, screen for their teammates on the fly so that they can make reads, and it makes you much more unpredictable as a team. I know a lot of people want to hear about defense, and I'm just glad to talk about basketball too. It's nice to dive back into actual basketball.
Yeah, I think defensively, this is going to be a growth area for our team. Certainly with Indiana, we weren't the worst, but we were in the bottom. And it was a strength of ours in Connecticut, and
right.
Mostly because it was a strength of Alyssa Thomas, and she's been the identity of the Connecticut Sun for so long. I think first and foremost, it's a mindset. You've got to be committed to it. And so establishing that this is going to be a part of our DNA and a part of who we are right away and is going to be important. We want to be disruptive, but not in a way that gets us out of position. I mean, certainly we got to play to our personnel, what we have. We've got high IQ players. We've got versatility, so we can do a lot of different things in terms of our coverages. But I've changed my philosophy a little bit on the defensive end of the floor in terms of I use a lot more analytics now. Like we're showing players how to get teams to take the shots we want them to take, right? Like, let's not give them the ones that they want. Let's force them into the tough shots that we want them to take, or the people on the floor that we want taking the shots.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit easier sometimes for players to buy into the percentages, right? To buy into what you can see, to buy into the tangible aspects of why we're playing the way that we're playing, as opposed to, okay, we're going to down them on the on-ball screen. Or why are we going to down them on the on-ball screen? Well, we don't want them to have, 3 different ways that they can come off, or, top block the pin downs, or why are we top blocking the pin downs? Because there's a lot of why. And so we're giving them that to start. Okay, like, this is the first way that we're going to play it because of this, and because the numbers indicate that this is an advantageous way for us to play it, right? And then this would be the second way, and this would be the third way. But
she also talked about, like, communicating on defense, which is of the utmost importance. She talked about getting in stances and effort and all of that. But communication and effort are, in many ways, the building blocks of defense. That's where you start and you go from. But then you have to understand the why, as she talked about. So for those of you who may not know exactly what she means, basically, she used Alyssa Thomas as an example. So I'll use Alyssa Thomas as an example. Would you want to give up an Alyssa Thomas layup? No. Would you be okay giving up an Alyssa Thomas 3-point attempt? Yes. So basically, you look at the personnel of the other team and you think about the shots that you'd be okay surrendering. Oftentimes, that's going to be long 2-point shots from people. That's the way basketball philosophy has evolved. She's also talked about, or she also discussed on the podcast, not being in no man's land when it comes to rebounding. Either get back or know that, there's an offensive rebounding opportunity. You have to make those sorts of decisions. And then, of course, there is Caitlin Clark, and the star power of Caitlin Clark has to be a piece of any conversation involving a member of the Fever, particularly the new head coach.
I've coached Michael Jordan. I coached Isaiah. I coached Dominique Wilkins. I mean, and then with the Dream Team, we had all of them.
Right.
She's of that caliber in the women's game, which is of the highest quality. I love the women's game. What's your approach when you're coaching greatness like that?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, just talking basketball, right? Just having general basketball conversations about what she's watching, what she likes, what are some of the things that what are some of her thoughts from, not just what the Indiana Fever have done, but from the game of basketball in general. I started watching Caitlin Clark when she was in the 8th grade when I was at Vanderbilt. And then I called a lot of her games in college when she was at Iowa. And so I've really watched her continue to learn and grow, and have great relationships with her college coaches, and had multiple conversations with them throughout the course of her career about what the next steps would be, right? And what the next level would be. And she's hungry to grow and hungry to get better. And so number one, again, that two-way communication. It's been a long time since I've played. So players that are on the floor, they know, right? Like, they get a sense, they get a feel of what's working, what's not. My first conversation with her about X's and O's the other day, I was just like, okay, well, how do you want to improve? Like, what are some of the things that you want to improve on? And then we'll talk about how we want to do that. And then I talked to her about how I think we can use her to help her be more efficient, help her be more effective, to help our team be better in general. She's a great player. She's a high IQ player. She adjusted really quickly to this league.
Unbelievably
quick to this league. And now it's about becoming not just a great player, but becoming a great leader for this team, so that we can win not just a championship, but championships. And what does that look like? And for me too, just as someone who's been a part of this league for 25 years, who's been a part of the Indiana Fever franchise, just being there to help her navigate some of the things that she's navigating.
It's just it is crazy to think about what Caitlin Clark does have to navigate. As you hear Stephanie White discuss it right there. But simply hearing her speak has to get you excited about the prospects of the Indiana Fever, and not trying to any shade Christy Sides in any way, but clearly there's been an upgrade at the coaching position.